It's Investigate Indiana, and today we conclude our trip to James Dean Country, better known as Fairmount, Indiana. Dean had deep roots here in Fairmount. After Dean's mother died, he came to live with his Aunt Hortense and Uncle Marcus Winslow, and spent his formative years, from 9 to 18, on the Winslow farm and palling around with his buddies from Fairmount High School. What better way to wind up this series than hearing from Dean's younger cousin, Marcus Winslow, who grew up like Jimmy's little brother. Marcus gives us some background on Dean's early need for speed.
Well, of course, the only one I remember is a check. I remember that real well. Now, this motorcycle here, he had it in California, and I never seen it till, I don't know, around 1990, I think we finally ran it down. But it was bought new in Culver City in California. He bought a Royal Enfield off of Marvin Carter to ride back to New York. Well, it broke down on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and he called a dealer there, and they come and got it, and it was an Indian dealer. And he ended up trading the Royal Enfield for an Indian and riding the Indian on to New York. Now, whatever happened to the Indian, who knows?
But then Dean loved cars too, and used to do a little racing in California.
There in California, they used to set up racetracks on the airports, and I think that's where he raced usually.
I asked Marcus to talk a little about Dean's early career in New York, in television and in the theater.
He did about 30 television shows, over 30, and I guess what I got to remember about them is he used to send mom and dad a letter or a postcard. Sometimes he'd write it on a postcard. What show he was going to be on, like Suspense or Danger or something like that. Sometimes he'd do 2 or 3 shows a week. That's what I never could fathom, how he could remember the lines. But he never seemed to have any problem. At that time, about all the TV work was coming out of New York. He did a Pepsi commercial one time, and I think that's available. Plus, he was doing Broadway plays. Yeah, it was kind of neat to see him. Seemed like he always played the same character, that type of a thief or something, you know.
I also wondered if Hortense and Marcus Winslow ever got to see Jimmy perform on the stage in New York. Unfortunately, they did not. But they were asked to appear on the Ed Sullivan Show.
They were in New York, but this was after he died. They were in New York for Ed Sullivan Show, I believe it was. I know Mom used to think that, do you remember Arthur Godfrey? She used to like him. Jimmy didn't care much for him, but, you know, he'd talk about people like that, something about the shows. He used to work on a TV show called Beat the Clock. They'd do tricks, and well, he'd do them first, see how quick he could do them, and then that's what they judge people by, on how quick they ought to be able to do them.
Jimmy had a mischievous side too. Well, let's listen to Marcus talk about a particular trick he played on his little cousin.
I know one time he bought a little race car like you'd push on the floor, and he put it up on, what was it Mom had in the dining room there? Chiffonier, I think they called it, where you put china and stuff in. He put it up there and wouldn't let me have it for a couple of days. Just to torment me.
Well, that's just mean.
Yeah. I thought it was too at the time.
I've always wondered what Wynton Dean's reaction was to his son going into the acting profession. So I asked.
I mean, of course, he had lived in California for years, and he had seen all the failures and so forth, you know, and he kind of felt like being an actor was kind of a deadbeat career, you know. And I can understand how he'd feel that way. But I think when Jimmy started getting some good parts, and then got in 3 motion pictures. He realized that Jimmy was serious then, and I think then he came around. He really studied it. He didn't just happen to fall into it, and he was very, very dedicated to being a successful actor.
What was his last visit home like? And what was it like seeing your cousin on the big screen?
He seemed to be sort of nervous the last time he was home, but he had just finished East of Eden, and it was just getting ready to be released. I think it was released a couple weeks after he was here. I thought it was very good. One of my favorite shows.
Is it your favorite of the 3 films?
Yeah, I think it is.
I think it's mine too.
It just seemed like him. Didn't seem like he was acting to me. The manager of the Indiana Theater invited us over one evening. Well, it was during the day, and showed it to a group. I don't remember who all was there. My sister, I think, and I think Mrs. Knoll was there, and I don't know who else. And I don't remember if they showed it to the public that night or whether it was the next day that they showed it to the public.
But you guys had a special preview.
Yeah, yeah, I thought it was a wonderful movie. I really liked it.
A talented life was tragically cut short on a highway in California on September 30th, 1955. I also asked Marcus to tell us how the family found out about Jimmy's death.
Mom and Dad had been out visiting Jimmy and Uncle Wins and so forth, and they were on their way back home when the accident happened. And Dad always said that he heard on the radio, all he heard was that some young movie star had been killed in an automobile accident. Well, he had a feeling it might have been Jimmy, so he just shut the radio off, made it a point not to turn it on after that. Mom didn't know it, and he didn't know for sure, and they drove right straight home then. There used to be some neighbors there by the name of Middletons. Bob Middleton was a good friend of Jimmy's when they were kids. Well, his folks still lived there. They seen the lights come on over there on I think it was on a Sunday evening, and they called my sister Joanne, and she came and told them. That's the first they knew for sure that he'd been killed.
Asked why Jimmy, as he was always known to his friends and family, was buried back here at Park Cemetery rather than Hollywood, Marcus pretty much sums it up.
Well, Mom and Dad wanted him buried here, I know, and I imagine his folks did too, or his dad. I mean, this was home, Hollywood wasn't home. It's where he worked, but it wasn't home. And, they just preferred that he be buried here.
In late September, Play Acres Park in Fairmount will be filled with vintage cars, bands will be playing at the James Dean Memorial Stage, his films will be shown, there will be a parade, and even a memorial service on that Sunday. So save the date, the last full weekend in September, for the James Dean Festival. If you liked this video, please give us a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and comment. Oh, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be notified each time we upload a new adventure. See you next time.